Chapter 211, Setting a Trap for Zhang Lingtian. Next, Su Buiyuan called Su Ro again, asking her to bring the children to a private restaurant later and have dinner together. Su Ro didn't think much about it. She took the children to the outskirts, played all day, and, feeling tired, decided not to cook at home. As Fang Hao drove, unexpectedly passing by the Jiangdong real estate project that Tang Wan mentioned about giving him a house, he couldn't help but slow down and glance outside. Mother-in-law said, "Fang Hao, try hard. Buying a house here is much more practical than buying one at Tianjifeng." Su Buiyuan added, "Fang Hao, you want to buy a house at Tianjifeng? You really dare to dream." Fang Hao pondered, thinking, "You look down on people." He chuckled, not arguing, and said, "You're right, I did think too much." Mother-in-law said, "Fang Hao, if you really want to buy a house, let your dad inform Julong, and you can get an internal price, which can save you a lot of money." Fang Hao seized the opportunity. "Dad, are you familiar with Zoyun?" "Not really, but I can exchange a few words." "Fang Hao, don't think you can take advantage. I can get them to give you about a 50% discount. 50% is not bad. When I really divorce Xiaoro, and if I decide to buy a house, I'll trouble you." Fang Hao chuckled, feeling disdainful. "Tang Wan said she wanted to give me a set, and you can only get a 50% discount. It's clear who treats me better, the difference is clear." He continued, "It's quite a coincidence. This morning, Zoyun went to the hospital for a headache, and I happened to be there. After the treatment, Director Liu Yu mentioned an anecdote about her. 2 years ago, Zoyun directly changed the nature of the South City Park from public land to commercial land, and later, it became a mixed-use area." "What background does she have?" Su Buiyuan explained, "That's right. At that time, we debated for a long time on the transfer of land. The South City Park project was an unavoidable topic. In the end, due to certain objective reasons, the benefits outweighed the drawbacks, and it was approved. Of course, this wasn't Zoyun's credit, she was just a runner." Fang Hao asked, "I heard it was manipulated by Xing Julong?" "Oh, you even know about Xing Julong?" It seems Liu Yu was paying attention back then. However, Liu Yu only knows one aspect, she doesn't know the other. The one who truly guided this project wasn't Zhang Julong, but Ling Tian. Zhang Lingtian? Fang Hao's pupils suddenly contracted. When he heard Zhang Julong's name, he subconsciously thought of Zhang Lingtian, and now, hearing it from his father-in-law, it really was Zhang Lingtian. That person, you might think he lives on the second floor, but he might be living in the stratosphere. Mother-in-law said, "Ling Tian does have this ability, as long as he wants to do it. But didn't he go abroad at that time? That was just laying low." It was a heated discussion back then, and if he had stood up, he would have been in the spotlight, which wouldn't have been good for him. That's not his style. But based on what I know about him and the data he manipulated in my hands at that time, I couldn't figure it out then, but now I understand. It's his handiwork. As for the specific operation, I'll invite him to a meal later and let him explain it properly. He's a person who loves to boast, but everything he boasts about can be achieved." Su Buiyuan's eyes sparkled, showing great admiration. Fang Hao found it amusing. This Zhang Lingtian is the suspected lover of his wife. He said, "Dad, when you make the appointment, can I also be present? I want to hear his high-level discussion." "You're not qualified to attend my meeting with Ling Tian." Su Buiyuan held his head high, appearing quite distinguished. "I won't appear in front of you, I'll be on the side listening." Fang Hao still refused to give up. After all, this might be his best chance to get close to Zhang Lingtian. Mother-in-law said, "Old Su, invite Ling Tian to our house and let Fang Hao listen upstairs. I'll make the appointment first." Su Buiyuan could refute Fang Hao without mercy, but he still had to be polite to his old partner. "Su Ro, you can't imagine, the whole family is mobilized just to find out who the man behind you is. And he is even more pitiful." Not long after Fang Hao arrived at the private restaurant, Su Ro also came with the children. Little Tiger's parents hadn't returned, so he followed them. He was carefree and got along well with Tian Tian, like two peas in a pod. The private restaurant only served one table of dishes each day, accommodating only one order. The restaurant owner was a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance, fitting the saying, big face, thick neck. He was either a chef or a kitchen assistant. Fang Hao tasted the dishes and found them quite good, sparking some inspiration. He even went to the kitchen to have a look. "You are Professor Su's son-in-law, and you are also a doctor. I'm not afraid you'll take away my job, so feel free to take a look," the restaurant owner chuckled, allowing Fang Hao to explore while he busied himself. Fang Hao saw a typical kitchen with jars and various ingredients, relatively clean and organized. Judging from the owner's knife skills, he could tell the man had some training. He asked, "Boss, your craftsmanship is good. Why only accept one order a day? Wouldn't it be more profitable to take multiple orders?" The restaurant owner smiled slightly and said, "Take a guess." Fang Hao was momentarily puzzled, scratched the back of his head, and said, "It's like a different world between professions. I can't figure it out." "You should ask your dad, it was his idea." The restaurant owner still didn't reveal it directly. "My dad, oh, I seem to understand a little. Economically speaking, scarcity is valuable, and by establishing a reputation, the price naturally goes up." "Hi, indeed." Fang Hao raised his thumb in approval. "You're very clever. If you weren't a doctor, you could also be a big-shot businessperson." The restaurant owner complimented Fang Hao. This young man was too handsome. If he had just a tenth of Fang Hao's looks, he wouldn't need to work as a chef or kitchen assistant. He could make a living just by his appearance. Leaving the kitchen, Fang Hao walked towards the restaurant and noticed his wife in a corner, holding a phone and whispering something. He deliberately lightened his footsteps, approaching carefully. He heard what Suro said. "I'm busy tonight, I'm having dinner with my parents." No. "Oh, you've handled it so quickly. You're really good at this. Let's talk later." No. "I'll consider it. Don't force me, okay?" "Got it." Suro suddenly turned around, realizing that Fang Hao was standing not far away, startling her so much that she almost dropped her phone. Before Fang Hao could pick it up, she quickly grabbed it and pressed the power button to turn it off while the call was still connected. But in that split second, Fang Hao saw the nickname on the screen, Big Elephant Nose. "You're truly a despicable person." Chapter 212, Confronting Wife's Best Friend Face to Face. "Honey, why do you walk so quietly? You suddenly appeared behind me and scared me. Look, my phone is broken now. You'll have to buy me a new one later." Suro was momentarily stunned. The surprise on her face faded, replaced by a charming, coquettish expression. She took a step forward, putting her phone in her pocket and then latching onto Fang Hao's arm, pressing her chest against him. Fang Hao frowned. He really wanted to slap her. They were out for a meal, and she couldn't resist communicating with her lover on the phone. Truly despicable. Rotten to the core. He coldly said, "Why bother pretending? I heard everything. You like him so much, why won't you let go of me? Are you enjoying torturing me?" "Husband, you're overthinking it. I was just chatting with Yue Xia. If you don't believe me, I can call her from your phone." "You call." Fang Hao took out his phone and let Suro dial the number. Suro hesitated, feeling Fang Hao's suspicion, making her very uncomfortable. Still, she dialed the number. When the call connected, Fang Hao preemptively spoke, "Yue Xia, let's go out for a drink tonight, my treat." "You?" Suro was surprised. She didn't expect Fang Hao to say this, inviting another woman out right in front of her. She felt a crisis. "Sure, I'll wait for your call tonight. Your wife is with you. We didn't finish our conversation just now. Ask her to come out too. I won't chat with you anymore, I'm going to take a shower." The call was quickly disconnected. Fang Hao called again, but the other side was already turned off. He smiled at Suro. "You see, what a coincidence." "Husband, what are you? What do you suspect?" "I told you I was talking to Yue Xia. If you don't believe me, I can call her from your phone. But what you just did was a bit excessive. Why did you invite her out right in front of me?" Suro's thoughts were a bit chaotic at the moment. She had managed to bluff her way through, but Fang Hao had invited Yue Xia out. She couldn't figure out Fang Hao's intentions because he was a very clever man. Now that she was keeping things from him, it was challenging to anticipate his thoughts. "Oh, not invite her out in front of you? Should I do it secretly behind your back?" "Suro, I realize I don't understand you very well. I'm going to talk to your best friend." "Oh, and that Jinmei too. I'll have a chat with her later. Don't worry, it's just a normal conversation. We'll be going to decent places. If you're not at ease, you can come along." Fang Hao's expression remained calm, neither sad nor happy. "Husband, are you deliberately provoking me? You know I'm pregnant now, I can't drink or go dancing. You invited my best friend out, what are you trying to imply?" "Just one implication, to understand you better. I've realized that I don't know much about you. Think about it. We met, and then I expressed my admiration for you. Surprisingly, you agreed, and then we got married. After marriage, we spent very little time together due to our work schedules, almost never being together during work hours. Although we're a couple, we're rarely together, except for a bit more time on weekends. And you often go on business trips. So, I really don't know much about you. I'm your wife. I've given you everything I can. What else do you want? Think about it, have I asked you for anything? I didn't ask you to buy cosmetics, bags, or even a house or a car. I fell in love with you at first sight, and we shared mutual feelings. I chose you because of the person you are. Oh, that's the problem? Alright, this is someone else's restaurant. Talking about these things here might make people think we're having a fight. I'll savor every moment of the past 4 years and contemplate them later. Fang Hao didn't want to argue. He pushed away Su Ro's hand and walked towards the private room. Su Ro felt a bit dazed. Why did she make her husband suspicious again? She stomped her foot, hurriedly caught up with Fang Hao, tightly clung to his arm, and walked together towards the private room. The Su family couple busied themselves selecting food for the children, introducing them without noticing the awkward movements of Fang Hao and Su Ro. After eating for a few minutes, a call from the hospital came in. A pregnant woman faced a difficult choice, save the mother or the child. The family members were in serious disagreement, and another deputy chief physician in the gynecology department didn't dare to make a decision. They sought Fang Hao's help. Later, you send my parents and the kids back. I'll go to the hospital for a while. He gave Su Ro a few instructions and bid farewell to his in-laws, leaving first. Uncle, I'll go with you. Xiaohu was very fond of Fang Hao. Dad, I'll go with you too. Tian also expressed her desire to go. Dad, take me with you. Jia directly came over and hugged Fang Hao's thigh. All 3 of you can go, but don't cause trouble. Su Ro was afraid that after Fang Hao left the hospital, he would go directly to find Zhou Jia. With 3 little ones dragging Fang Hao, she thought it would be the most appropriate. Fang Hao, I'll go to the hospital with you. I'll take care of the 3 of them. You go and do your job. Her mother suggested this way, stood up, and exchanged a silent glance with Su Boyuan. Su Boyuan understood and agreed. Su Ro also consented. Fang Hao took away the 4, leaving only Su Boyuan and his daughter. After having another sip of wine and chatting with the restaurant owner for a while, Su Boyuan asked his daughter to send him home. In the car, Su Boyuan asked directly, Xiao Ro, I know about you and Fang Hao. Knowing a woman is like knowing her husband. We understand your thoughts. No matter what, you are our daughter, and naturally, we want to see you well. Su Ro frowned slightly and said, Dad, stop talking about it. I won't divorce Fang Hao. It doesn't matter who says what, it won't work. Su Boyuan was stunned. Su Ro's attitude made the prepared words useless. Thinking again about Fang Hao's attitude, insisting on a divorce while his daughter chose not to divorce. According to his point of view, their family was better than Fang Hao's in all aspects. If they were to divorce, it should be Fang Hao who proposed it first, and then Fang Hao would kneel down and cry, begging them not to separate. Now, things were reversed. It seemed more like his daughter stubbornly refused to divorce. He asked in a dull voice, Why? Fang Hao wants to leave you, why do you still have anything to do with him? Su Ro said, Dad, I love Fang Hao. I only recognize him as my husband, and he will be my only legal husband. I can't live without him. Why should I divorce him? Moreover, the children in my belly are his, and they are twins. I can't let the children be born without a father. I can't do that. Su Boyuan's brows wrinkled like bitter gourds. He asked, Then, what about Fang Hao suspecting that you have someone else outside? Su Ro said, He just doubts, there is no evidence. His recent job changes have been numerous, causing instability and pressure. Plus, my salary is higher than his, so he feels inferior. That's why he proposed a divorce. You can rest assured, after some time, he will figure it out and change his mind. She glanced at her father through the rearview mirror and added, Dad, I won't divorce Fang Hao, also for your sake. For me? Yes. Fang Hao has seen the matter between you and your female graduate student. If I divorce him, he will talk nonsense about your affairs. That wouldn't be good. If I don't divorce him, he will be your brother-in-law, and he can't speak ill of you. Dad, is this reasoning correct? In the carriage, it suddenly became quiet, and the atmosphere was a bit eerie. Chapter 213, As the Tao ascends 1 foot, the demon rises 10 feet. The air in the car seemed to freeze, but the short and rapid breaths inside revealed Su Boyuan's infuriation. Naturally, Su Boyuan had some ambiguous relationships with his female assistant. He couldn't resist the allure of his admirers' youthful and charming bodies, something he never experienced with Zhou Fen. Being an academic genius, he needed compliments, and Zhou Fen, who held a similar status, would never lower her status to actively please him. She was, in a sense, indifferent to worldly affairs. Not to mention the usual inability to distinguish between priorities and the hierarchy in their family. Even in matters between husband and wife, they adopted a very traditional and missionary approach. Su Buiyuan found it challenging to make Zhou Fen change her posture, and any attempt was met with sarcasm. Even a suggestion to try a different position was met with ridicule or dismissal, leaving him frustrated. He gradually realized that women with strong rational thinking, like his wife Zhou Fen, a mathematical genius, were indifferent to intimate matters. They preferred spending that time deducing more formulas and theorems rather than actively catering to him. So, he had affairs outside, such as with his female assistants who changed every so often. However, this couldn't be known publicly, or else his carefully crafted image would crumble. How could Fang Hao possibly know unless he was investigating and tracking me? That's impossible. Su Buiyuan eased himself and said, "Xiao Rou, don't speak nonsense. Fang Hao is definitely doing this to divorce you. He is going to great lengths, and he has already smeared me." Su Rou's lips curved slightly, saying, "Dad, Mom and I believe what Fang Hao said. And indeed, you have shown such behavior. If you don't admit it, you're just burying your head in the sand. I've talked with Mom, and she mentioned seeing your indiscretions with her own eyes. She didn't make a fuss, firstly because she's sick and old, can't afford to make a scene. Secondly, she knows you're just fooling around, can't do without family and status. Thirdly, it would cause a big mess. You're both getting old, having gone through storms of life, but Fang Hao and I are just starting. I love him, and I won't divorce him. Maybe in these 4 years, relying on the background you gave me, I might have treated Fang Hao a bit high-handed, damaging his self-esteem, not giving him enough family status. But I will correct it in the future. Fang Hao is gradually demonstrating his medical skills, his career will rise, and his status will increase. The gap between us will narrow, he will gain respect, confidence, and become like one of us. Now everyone knows." Su Buiyuan suddenly felt the pressure, the prestige of the head of the family collapsing. Su Rou continued, "So, Dad, I won't divorce my husband. I love him, and we both need him. As his medical skills improve, and inevitably, we will face illnesses and injuries, he can provide us with security. Dad, you may not approve of him, but you can't deny that Mom's life was saved by him. Now, following his treatment plan, Mom is getting better and better." Su Buiyuan said, "He is a doctor, doing his job." Su Rou said, "Yes, but to me, he also has the identity of another husband. Dad, do you still want me to divorce him now?" Su Buiyuan felt trapped, his hands and feet metaphorically tied. He tentatively asked, "Does Fang Hao really know about my affairs? How did he find out?" "Dad, you, one time you drank too much and had him pick you up, remember? He bumped into it. He's smart, naturally figured out what was going on. When he caused a scene at Jiangdong University, coupled with the widespread exposure on the internet, how can you hope to escape? Besides, if he uses this to blackmail you, insisting that I agree to divorce, what should we do?" Unconsciously, Su Buiyuan found himself constrained by Su Rou. If that's the case, it would be truly tearing apart the facade. But my husband won't do that. He wants to continue staying at Provincial People's Hospital and in Jiangdong City. He won't willingly return to the countryside. That's why he only discussed divorce with me. Su Rou's lips curved again, exuding a confident air of understanding everything. Su Buiyuan said, "So, he didn't file a lawsuit against you in court? Isn't that tearing apart our face?" That did make me furious. But I've reviewed his lawsuit, and he didn't present any evidence supporting the divorce. He just claimed that our emotions were incompatible, suspected me of betrayal, and wanted the court to investigate. These are all unfounded accusations. I love him, and I haven't betrayed him, so I rejected it. How could he do this? I thought he really had some evidence. Turns out, it's all his wild imagination. This Fang Hao, I need to have a serious talk with him. Don't provoke him, don't add more pressure. He's at a critical point in his career choice. If you provoke him again, he won't respect you anymore. True. Xiao Rou, you must stabilize Fang Hao, don't let him act recklessly. I'm just playing around, not taking it seriously. Your mom and I have a good relationship, mutual respect, and we won't allow anyone to disparage that. You know about your mom's condition, she can't handle stress. Xiao Rou, Dad can only rely on you. No wonder Fang Hao came to me early in the morning, with such a bad attitude, not treating me as an elder. He actually doesn't have evidence, he just wanted my support for the divorce. I almost fell for it. Su Buiyuan thinks Fang Hao is quite cunning, he really can't be trusted. After all, his daughter is still his daughter, she will consider her own interests. Su Ro continued, Dad, when you and my husband came together just now, did you discuss me? We did. Oh, what did you talk about? He said you are valued in the company because he suspects that someone outside has taken a liking to you, and you've accepted their advances. That's why you were promoted. He wants me to investigate the background of Jiangdong Group, see who is secretly helping you. Su Ro frowned, feeling very annoyed. Fang Hao's intuition was indeed accurate. If he really investigates the company thoroughly, he might find some problems. How to deal with this? Su Ro fell into silence. Su Buiyuan continued, Fang Hao even knows about the chairman of Jiangdong Group, Zhang Jiulong, and the land transfer event at the city South Park 2 years ago. How did he know? Lu Yu probably told him, otherwise, he wouldn't know. Why does Lu Yu tell him everything? Su Ro felt a sense of disgust towards that old woman. In the hospital, it was her support that allowed Fang Hao to stay in the gynecology department. Otherwise, Fang Hao wouldn't have been able to stay. She asked, and then? Whom does he suspect? He doesn't have a specific target, he's still investigating. No way, he can't have no suspicions. Either he's not sure and hasn't told you. Or, he doesn't trust you and is afraid that you and Mom are colluding and keeping it from me. After saying this, Su Ro smiled. Su Buiyuan said, it's possible, he's certainly cunning. He did propose a solution, he wants me to collect information on the key male employees of Jiangdong Group and have Tian and Jia Jia identify them. Then follow his lead. Su Ro relaxed her brows, thinking her husband was too naive. Also, he asked me to talk to your uncle Ling Tian. He wants to know how Ling Tian laid out the plan to take down City South Park back then, to understand the experts within Jiangdong Group. Su Ro's heart skipped a beat, almost losing control and hitting the guardrail, fortunately, reacting quickly. Dad, don't just listen to everything he says. Chapter 214, Wildflowers Can't Compare to Home Flowers. Fang Hao naturally had no idea how unreliable his father-in-law was and was easily deceived by Su Ro's few words. He quickly arrived at the hospital, handed the dormitory keys to his mother-in-law, and asked her to take the child upstairs to play. He hurriedly went to the obstetrics department. This time, the doctor on duty was still Dr. Tian, the one from last time. She looked a bit overwhelmed. When she saw Fang Hao, she quickly handed over the pregnant woman's medical records and some test reports, saying, Director, you're here. We can't make decisions. Please make the call. Fang Hao quickly reviewed the latest gynecological examination and tests of the pregnant woman. The tricky part was the woman's own issues. Among the various factors contributing to abnormal childbirth, she had 2, pregnancy-induced hypertension and a certain degree of amniotic fluid embolism. Let's first take a look at the pregnant woman. Fang Hao entered the operating delivery room and saw the pregnant woman on the bed, a plump woman who looked quite weak. At this moment, she was already on oxygen, and the data on various instruments for monitoring life displayed on the bedside were not optimistic. He first checked her pulse, then looked at the CT scans while taking a moment to understand. After a while, he had a clear idea. Approaching the pregnant woman's ear, he whispered, Zhou Xiaowen, rest assured. Both you and your child will be safe. The pregnant woman couldn't speak but nodded slightly. He instructed someone to prepare for anesthesia, took the cesarean section notice, and went outside the delivery room. He saw several family members of pregnant women and asked, Who is Zhou Xiaowen's husband? I am, my wife is Zhou Xiaowen. She has been inside for 2 hours. What happened to her? A tall middle-aged man with glasses and a square face, fat-headed and big-eared, raised his hand and approached. Then it's you. Come and sign. Fang Hao handed over the notice. At this moment, an old woman with a perm resembling instant noodles stepped forward. She said, Don't rush to sign. I need to ask clearly. Have you listened to our opinions? You must protect the baby. Our family has been trying for 10 years, and we finally conceived a boy. You can't let our family line break. Wait a minute, who are you, the chief physician just now? Let her come out and talk to me. The nurse next to Fang Hao said, This is Director Fang. He now oversees our entire gynecology department, including the obstetrics here. Director Fang is our most capable doctor. You should show some respect. Another old woman came forward, looked at Fang Hao's chest tag, and said, So you're Fang Hao. I remember you. If you don't protect the baby, I will sue you. Fang Hao said, That's right, I am Fang Hao. I will go in to deliver the baby later. The middle-aged man warned Fang Hao and shouted, you must prioritize the safety of the mother and child. If anything happens to my Xiaowen, I will hold you accountable. He turned to the middle-aged old woman and said, Mom, Aunt, Xiaowen is still young. If it doesn't work this time, we can have more children in the future. Keeping the family line is not a problem. Wait, who are you? Just because you're the mother, you decide everything, and I only need to listen to you. Fang Hao felt a headache and said, alright, the situation is not as serious as you think. Mother and child will be safe. If you don't sign now and continue arguing like this, you will only delay our work. By then, both mother and child will be delayed to death because of you. You're a man, sign now. Okay, I'll sign. The middle-aged man quickly signed and said, Director Fang, I entrust my wife and child to you. Fang Hao put away the signed form, then entered the delivery room to check the pregnant woman again. After confirming everything was in order, he began the cesarean section. During the delivery process, the pregnant woman experienced some fainting and bleeding, but Fang Hao managed to save her each time. 20 minutes later, as he delivered the baby and handed it over to a female doctor beside him, the doctor wiped the baby clean, lifted it gently, patted it lightly, and the baby let out a cry. Fang Hao addressed the pregnant woman Yue Xia Huo, can you hear me? This is the sound of your son. He has been successfully delivered, weighing 7 pounds 3 ounces, and he is very healthy. In the depths of unconsciousness, Yue Xia Huo couldn't move, but she could hear the doctor's words. Knowing that her son had been born smoothly and everything was going well, tears involuntarily welled up in the corners of her eyes. The head nurse beside them weighed the baby and exclaimed, Director, you're amazing. It's indeed 7 pounds 3 ounces. Dr. Tian and others looked at Fang Hao in shock, realizing that there was a charming halo around him. He looked so handsome. Fang Hao paused, turned to check the digital scale, glanced at his hands, and thought, calm down. Our work is not done yet. Let's clean up the bleeding in placenta and prepare for suturing. Yes. Dr. Tian and others knew that the most dangerous time had passed. This childbirth surgery, which would undoubtedly result in a tragedy in their hands, had miraculously resulted in the safety of both mother and child. After Fang Hao washed his hands, the head nurse held the baby for Fang Hao to inspect. Once he confirmed everything was fine, she carried the baby outside the delivery room and handed him over to the family. Thank you, doctor. I kneel down to you. The old woman took the baby, seeing that he was not small, over 7 pounds, and resembled their son. She wanted to kneel down. Where is my wife? The middle-aged man, seeing his son safe and sound, was relieved but more concerned about his wife. Yue Xia Huo is fine. It's postoperative observation now. She will be sent to the ward in a while. You can wait somewhere. Thank you, doctor. I'm not a doctor. If you want to thank someone, thank our director Fang. The condition of the mother was stable, and Fang Hao helped push her over. Due to the mother's weight, family members had to assist in moving her to the bed. Fang Hao took the lead, as the middle-aged man seemed weak. Once settled, Fang Hao breathed a sigh of relief, gave some instructions, and then left. Director Fang, on behalf of my family, I kneel down to you. The mother-in-law of the pregnant woman knelt down in front of Fang Hao and even kowtowed. Fang Hao hurriedly reached out to help her up. Old lady, are you trying to shorten my life? Get up quickly. The good days are just beginning. Live well. After comforting her for a few words, Fang Hao finally managed to leave the room. Outside, he saw his mother-in-law Zhou Fen and approached her, asking, why are you here? Where are those mischievous guys? They couldn't stay still and came to your workplace to take a look. They are all in your office. Zhou Fen wiped the corner of her eye. She had been here for quite a while, witnessing Fang Hao's dedicated and responsible actions when pushing the pregnant woman onto the bed, as well as the chaotic scene when the family members knelt down to express their gratitude. This guy is really a good doctor. A trustworthy and capable genius doctor. If only I had such a son, it would be great. He's only a half-son-in-law, but he wants to divorce my daughter. Can't they stay married? Fang Hao is also a proud person. If he is betrayed by a woman, he will definitely not get over that hurdle. Ah, Xiao Rou, are you blind? Wild grass, how can it compare to the fragrance of home grass? Chapter 215, Motherhood Blossoms. Seeing Fang Hao taking off his white coat, his mother-in-law asked, are you done? Yes, just this urgent case, nothing else is urgent. I also took a call. There's been a casualty, and as the director, I have to be held accountable. I have to go. I've sorted things out here, and I can leave. Fang Hao was very calm. He wasn't omnipotent or invincible, he needed rest too. Most importantly, Luo Shuozhuan would take over the position the day after tomorrow. There wasn't much he could do, and he shouldn't do much. In these emergency cases, are there situations where you can't save them? Of course, there are. In these 4 years, I've seen it happen more than once. In your hands? Me? When do I have the chance to lead a rescue? If it weren't for Director Lu getting old, the new director hasn't arrived, and there are no tigers in the mountain, this monkey, became the king first. But come next Monday, with the new leader in place, I'll just step aside. Fang Hao was very clear about his position. Although he had impressive medical skills and was confident enough to compete with others, he came from a rural background without any influential background. In the gynecology department, he was the interim director, with the most authority. He could access the files of doctors and nurses. After discussing with Lu Yu, he found out that many nurses here had family backgrounds, some even relatives of provincial-level officials. Apart from his decent medical skills, he was nothing special. His mother-in-law felt a bit blocked in her heart and said, "Don't belittle yourself. A cone in the bag will eventually reveal its edges. You're managing well in the inpatient department, outpatient department, and even participating in epidemic control. Now, in the gynecology department, you're competent. It shows your ability." "Mom, this doesn't sound like you. Why are you praising me? I'm not used to it. You should say that I, a country bumpkin, should be like this." "Well, country bumpkin, you should be like this." Seeing Fang Hao silent, his mother-in-law Zhou Fan's mouth slightly lifted, feeling a bit proud. She continued, "I gave you a math book. It seems like you haven't read it. Are you just brushing me off? I'll read it when I get home tonight." Fang Hao could only come up with this response, thinking that reading any kind of book might help promote sleep. He walked towards the office and saw Yue Xia bending over, hands on her knees, catching her breath. He went over, picked up his daughter, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and felt a mix of love and resentment for this non-biological daughter of his wife and her lover. He had taken care of her for 4 years, investing all the fatherly love he could give. The child was beautiful and obedient, and their bond was as strong as if she were his own. Sometimes, when he heard Yue Xia call him dad, that sense of warmth made him hesitate to take out the paternity test and confront his wife. If he were heartless, and the child didn't get along with him, he would have revealed the truth long ago. His wife's disagreement wouldn't have mattered. The ultimate result would be divorce, and he would be completely liberated. But now, he was bound. Yue Xia was panting and said, "Dad, Tian doesn't listen every day. He runs too fast, and I can't catch up." "Don't blame Tian. You also need to eat more. That way, you can grow taller and faster." However, many times, boys run faster because they will have to do more things in the future. They need to be taller, stronger, and faster. Fang Hao squinted. Children's worlds were straightforward, with simple thinking. "Dad, I also want to be taller, stronger, and faster. I want to do more than Tian. Okay, then you have to be obedient now. Don't be afraid of hard work, and don't be foolish." After assessing her for a moment, Fang Hao said, "Yue Xia, you haven't gained weight in half a year." He shouted at the door of the office, calling Tian and Little Tiger over. He weighed them one by one. He would pick them up, weigh them, and then put them down. To his surprise, the displayed weight matched his preconceived estimate. "This is amazing, my hands are like a scale. Even if I don't work at the hospital in the future, I can set up a stall to sell vegetables and meat without needing a scale." Zhou Fan came over and said, "It's normal for Yue Xia not to gain weight. Girls shouldn't grow too fat, it's not good for their height." "Maybe. I'll check it out. I'll answer this call first." Fang Hao knew it wasn't right, but without much thought, he answered the call. It was Lu Jing calling, asking if he was still at the hospital and requesting him to pick her up. Fang Hao agreed, hung up, and left with his mother-in-law and the children. In front of the emergency building, he saw Lu Jing. "Sister Zhou." Lu Jing greeted both Zhou Fan and Zhou Jing, then got into the car. Seeing the 3 kids, she asked, "Whose lively kids are these?" "The neighbors, their parents are busy, so they're staying at our place for a few days. We already have 2 troublemakers at home, so one more doesn't matter." Fang Hao casually explained, knowing that Lu Jing currently didn't have any children and had been wanting one without success. He shouldn't have brought up this topic, so he changed it, saying, "Director, I thought you weren't on an emergency today. Why are you still here so late?" "I was waiting for a delivery just now. My car broke down, and it won't be fixed for 3 to 5 days." Zhou said, these days, let Fang Hao pick you up. Let him drive your car. He should do something, or he'll feel justified doing nothing and become even more shameless. Alright, you've spoken. I'll comply. Lu Jing smiled, glanced at the 3 kids in the car, and said, there's still time now. I'll take you all to a nice place. What place? Want to go to the amusement park? Auntie, we want to go to the children's amusement park. The 3 kids discovered a new world with their every word. Okay, then it's the amusement park. I'll take you to ride boats and airships. Lu Jing looked at Fang Hao and said, Fang Hao, tomorrow is also the weekend, and the kids don't have to go to kindergarten. Tonight, let them go wild. Tonight, they are my kids. Sure. Fang Hao didn't say much, and he drove to the amusement park. The amusement park was crowded, but Lu Jing, in her motherly mode, took the 3 kids and had a blast. Zhou saw that there were many grandmothers in the amusement park and also wanted to experience this family joy. She went in to see how the children were playing. Fang Hao felt a bit tired and decided to stay here to rest. Unconsciously, he fell asleep. In the end, his wife called and woke him up. He didn't answer, looked at the time, and realized that he had slept for an hour. His wife continued to blow up his phone, and he got out of the car, lit a cigarette, took a few puffs before answering, saying, you're so annoying, can't you stop? Husband, why haven't you come back yet? Are you really out drinking with Yue Xia? Don't go too far. You can't go out alone with my best friend. You're so handsome, they might have ideas about you. I'm pregnant, and you shouldn't let them take advantage of it. Facing his wife's questioning on the phone, Fang Hao got a bit annoyed. He said, what does it have to do with you? What do you mean, what does it have to do with me? I'm your wife. You can't go out alone with my best friend. You're so handsome, and they're probably thinking about you. I'm pregnant, and I can't let them take advantage of it. We're getting divorced soon. You shouldn't care about these things. We won't get divorced. You can give up on that idea unless I die. Otherwise, you're still Su Ro's husband. Get lost. Why are you shouting so loudly over there? So, you've taken the kids out to play. Husband, you lied to me, saying you're going out with Yue Xia. You deliberately wanted to provoke me. You're so bad. Wait until you come back, I'll take care of you. Humph, humph, humph. You're crazy. Fang Hao hung up, listened to the noise from the amusement park, and felt a bit uncomfortable. His wife cared about him. In the past, he would have been moved. Now, he felt repulsed. Moreover, his wife could distinguish between the sounds of nightclubs and this children's amusement park over the phone. Did she often go to nightclubs? Or did she frequently come to this amusement park? It must be the former.